Hey, hello. My name is Selena.
And my name's Theoni, and you are listening to Piping Hot.
Another week, another episode of Hyping Hot. Hello to the 3 listeners that are listening.
We gotta give ourselves enough credit because our Bridgerton episode, I will say, we got a few more listeners.
I saw that too because I was just interested to see like where that was sitting at, and it like popped off.
Right? I was like, okay, people love Bridgerton.
Yes.
Holy crap. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Oh, how's it going, buddy?
It's going good. It's been a week, you know. Ugh.
I am mentally, physically, emotionally exhausted.
Yeah.
I've taken a nap every day, but I will say I have eaten like so healthy this week, and like obviously do whatever you want, but I'm very proud of myself because I
Yeah.
hate cooking and I always order out, but I have not ordered out at all the past 2 weeks, and that might sound like a small
Wow.
thing, but it's actually pretty exciting. So
That's huge. Good
Yes.
job. No,
thank you very much.
on Tuesday I had cake for lunch, so you are winning.
But that sounds amazing. Where did you like buy yourself a cake, or were you just like,
Okay, so I got this tuxedo chocolate mousse cake from Costco that
Oh,
was
my
like
mouth just
$12. Yeah, $12, and it was huge, and I demolished it. Like I mean, I ate it throughout the week. I didn't eat it in one sitting, but
I wouldn't have judged you if you did.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. No, it was so freaking good. And it was such an impulse buy at Costco too, because I was like,
Great.
walking around, I was like, there's this chocolate cake just sitting here. I was like, I can't take it home. Like, I can't not take it home, you know?
You're like, it looks too good. I have to do this for myself. Treat yourself.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
What kind of tea are you drinking?
Today, I am drinking stress relief tea by Yogi.
Alrighty.
You know, it's just, it's been a freaking week, and you know, like work has been slow, which is great, but like mentally it's just been like so exhausting, you know?
Yeah, totally. I get you, girl.
Yeah. What about you?
I am drinking green tea with a little bit of honey because I have absolutely fried my vocal cords lately. Like, I was at a bar on Saturday night and they were playing like the best music. I don't even know, like, play me a good like 2000s throwback. You know me, I love to sing along, even
Yes.
when I don't know the words, right? So I may or may not have been doing that. And as I'm dancing with my friends and singing along, this guy comes up to me and he's like, "You don't know the words, do you?" And I was like, "I don't." And he was like, "Okay." And then we like danced a little, and then he left, and that was that. So it's not a good story, but I was just taken aback. I was like, let me live my life, but also fair, call me out, because I was fully mouthing the words but had no idea what they were. So.
Wait, that's so weird though. Come on. Was that supposed to be like a pickup line? Like
Don't expect me to know. I don't know when someone's flirting with me or not. I can't tell the difference. I don't know anything. It probably was.
Okay.
He was nice enough, so we like danced a little bit, like
Okay.
with my group of friends and stuff. But I'm also the one where, like, if I'm not interested, which this is really rude, I'll just kind of like ignore a little.
Yes, that's what we did in New York.
Yeah, facts. Anyone who come up to us were like,
Nope.
Yep.
And just like turn around 180.
Yep. Literally. But anyways, fried my vocal cords there. The other day I was showing my mom a pair of shoes that I bought, and I like laughed, but then I inhaled and something from the bottom of the shoe like went into my throat. I don't know what it was, but it was the most disgusting thing ever. So I started coughing, and I can't even describe the cough, but that like destroyed my vocal cords. So now I'm trying to heal those babies.
Oh my God, I almost gagged Theoni.
Oh, I did too. My mom was like, "Are you gonna throw up?" I was like, "I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna." She's asking me mid cough, and I'm like, "Do you think I'm gonna respond to you right now? Like, what the heck?"
I'm a little busy.
I'm literally.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's like,
So
okay.
I don't know. I'm in a weird mood. I have literally half a brain cell. So anyways, what pop culture things do you have?
There's not like a lot. I just like haven't been really like in tune with like the things that are happening, but just a couple of things. Yeah. One, Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker.
Yes, they got married.
Wait, did you see though that they didn't have a marriage license, so it didn't count?
Yo. Okay. That just like killed the excitement.
Yeah.
But like, to be fair, I feel like a lot of people don't, if they get married in Vegas, it's not like legit, and you do the paperwork later. But I don't know. I feel like it counts.
Yeah.
In their eyes, it probably counts, but
that's what I was thinking too. But then, a couple days after, they're like, oh yeah, they didn't have a marriage license and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, okay.
Honestly, was very unsurprising. But also for celebrities to like, maybe I think too much into this, but like when celebrities get married that fast, I'm like, what about the prenup? Don't you need to think about the prenup? Like, who, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're not like freaking normal people. Like, they have assets. They have like so much shit that they have to go through. So you're so right.
Especially because they both have kids, you know? So you have to, there's so many things to think about. So I'm sure they're like, okay, we're married now, but we have to like do all of that stuff.
Okay.
So
yeah. Well, good thing that they didn't have a marriage license then.
Otherwise, you're screwed if anything happens.
Yeah.
But they look so happy. I actually think they're a really nice couple.
Me too.
As if I know them personally, but
I think Kourtney like definitely needs someone like him, you know? Like
totally.
I mean, I guess Scott is Scott, you know, but I think Kourtney definitely needs someone like Travis, if that makes sense.
Before you go on to your next one, I just need to tell our listeners, Selena's wearing space buns today and she looks so good. I just needed to tell you guys that.
Thanks, yeah. Our 3 listeners, remember?
Yes.
Our 3 listeners.
Because I'm sure that's what they're keeping track of, our hairstyles.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a friggin' podcast. They can't even see us.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Second thing, let's talk the Grammys. That happened.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
I actually watched them all the way through. Like,
really?
I never do it, but I don't know why. I was just into it this year.
Okay.
And Ariana Grande did not go to the Grammys, and I don't blame her because they snub her every single time.
Yep.
What does that girl have to do to get a Grammy? Like, I'm not even saying that because I like her, but also her albums are unique. She has like fantastic production on her songs. Her voice is incredible.
Yeah.
She has a very like cool niche of music. What more can she do?
Yeah.
So that made me mad, but I also understand.
And she's like so vocally talented too, you know? Like the things that she can freaking do with her voice is insane. It's so hard. And like no one recognizes that because it's like, oh, well, like it's auto-tune or she can just do it so easily. And I think just like being singers, like we definitely know it is not easy what she does.
Literally though, not at all. I will say though, I felt like I was looking at like obviously all the nominees and things, and I thought that there were a lot of good nominees. So like I can imagine the decision to choose who won was very, very difficult. So I actually thought it was a really good spread this year. I will say that very happy Olivia Rodrigo won a Grammy. Like I thought that was amazing. But the other Grammys she won really surprised me in the categories that she won because I was like based off of who won, I would have moved things around. The fact that Olivia Rodrigo did not win an award for driver's license blew my mind because that was by far the biggest song of the year.
Yes, and I think it's her best song too.
It is 100%. Yeah. So I'm just like, how did that not, like she won, I think, best pop vocal album, I believe. And that I understand. But I was like, why didn't you win something just for driver's license? I don't understand.
Interesting. Okay, what other awards did she win? I didn't look it up.
I want to say she won best live performance. Maybe that was for driver's license. Maybe actually. Okay. But I will say, I don't know why Billie Eilish did not win that. Her Happier Than Ever performances are insane. And I'm not even a huge Billie Eilish fan. Yeah. Or you know who else should have won that category, which I've been listening to the song on repeat, Jon Batiste, I think his name is. Yes. His song Freedom is an absolute bop, and I did not know about it until the Grammys, but he performed it. You should go watch it because it is so good. So good.
I feel like I've heard his name before.
He's on the late night or whatever Stephen Colbert show is. So he's on there in his band, but I know he's done a lot of stuff otherwise. I think he actually has a very, very good career. I just don't really know a lot about him.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Dang. Yeah, no, I was just getting like little bits and pieces on like my Twitter timeline and stuff, but I also really love the whole little like Doja Cat bit where she like is running from the freaking bathroom.
That was hilarious.
She's so cute, and I love it.
So cute.
And she's like, I took the fastest piss in my life to get here. And I was like, yeah, girl, you probably did.
Yeah. I'm so happy her and SZA won.
Yeah, me too. They so deserve it.
Totally.
And like, I just like her speech like was just so heartwarming for me because she was like, I tend to like joke about a lot of things, but this seriously does mean like a lot to me. And I was like, oh my God, you deserve it.
She so deserves it. And I thought that was beautiful and so relatable too, you know?
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's talk about your new boyfriend, Jack Harlow.
Oh my God. I was like,
you have a boyfriend?
I was like, since when? Can I meet him? Please? I was like, please introduce me. It's time. Oh my God. I'm sorry, y'all. I am on the Jack Harlow train. He performed Industry Baby with Lil Nas X. He did this thing with his microphone.
Just a thing.
Y'all need to go watch it. I watched that moment and I said, all right, I'm on board. And he has a song coming out tomorrow, actually, which it'll be out by the time this episode comes out, called First Class, where he like samples Glamorous by Fergie, and I literally am so excited. I am on Jack Harlow TikTok. Like, he is on my For You page, and I am not mad about it. He shouldn't be as attractive as he is. Sorry, wow, I'm talking a lot. See, I'm bothered. He bothers me.
No, right. Well, he's your boyfriend, so I mean, it makes sense.
Yo, for real. He has, I looked it up, and he's playing a concert on April 30th in Boston, and I might just have to get tickets.
You have to.
I'm determined to make eye contact with him.
Yeah.
And then we'll fall in love. And he also said in an interview that he likes brunettes. So, what up?
Yeah.
What is up?
Yeah, no, I wasn't a big fan of him. I know that song by Lil Nas X. Like, it's on my workout playlist. So I've heard of him.
Sure.
But I was just like never really like a big fan. I never really listened to his songs, and then I saw that clip and I was like, I get it. I get it.
Literally. Oh my, woof to Martha. Now I'm just thinking about it. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. Okay, last thing about the Grammys that I want to talk about is that the ladies who did the Bridgerton musical won a Grammy.
That made me so happy. Number one, you're beating out a male-dominated field, which is insane.
Yeah.
But also, they're so talented, and I feel like really deserving. I mean, they self-produced, they self-submitted, they did everything themselves.
All the vocals.
How insane. Literally. Everything themselves. And I think that is so cool.
I know. And I just can't get over, like, it's so good. Like, Bridgerton, the musical that they wrote, is literally so freaking good.
I need to see it on the stage.
Me too.
Like, can you imagine, like, the production of it with the costumes and, like, wow.
I know.
Wow.
I know. I was so happy for them because they so deserved it. It was so freaking good, and they put in so much hard work.
I know. Oh my gosh. I was so happy for them.
Okay, well, that is it for my pop culture things. Did you have anything like last minute that you thought of?
I literally don't. I think I started a list this week of like my celebrity crushes, but the only people on there right now are Maluma, Jack Harlow, and Matteo Berrettini, that tennis player I always send you pictures of. He's an Italian tennis player, and I don't even know how I came across him. He's only 26.
He's only 26. He looks so much older.
I know. If I have a type, it is him. You know me, like the tan skin, the dark hair,
and then the facial hair too.
Oh my God. It's funny
Because it's funny because if you look at that list, it's like the two guys are the same, and then there's just Jack Harlow.
Just he's so not. He really should not be on that list, but boy, is he.
I know.
Oh my God, this may as well just be like a thirst podcast at this point. Like every week, I'm like, guess who I'm obsessed with?
Really.
All right, guys. Well, this week, as you know by the title and our introduction last week, we are going to be talking about the book Beach Read by Emily Henry. I honestly did not know how I was going to feel. I was a little bit wary after our last book talk experience.
yeah, same.
But I literally loved it, and I cannot wait to discuss because I finished it in a day. I did.
You did? Okay,
I sure did.
But I'm not surprised because you read books really freaking fast.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. Sorry, I'm still thinking about Mateo. Oh my God. Okay, sorry, focus.
No, you're good. Okay, well, if you haven't read the book yet, it's going to be spoilers all episode. So go read the book and then come back and listen to this episode.
Yes.
So before we dive in, I know you kind of went over your like overall thoughts, but like did you have any other like overall thoughts before we like dive into like the nitty-gritty?
I don't know that I do, besides I liked it, and I'm afraid that if I start talking, I'm going to say too much.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So my overall thoughts on Beach Read.
Okay.
At first, I like was not vibing with it. Like it took me a while to get into it, but then once I did eventually get into it, I like literally could not put it down. Like really? I loved it. Yeah. It was just like, I don't even remember what point it was or like what chapter, but there was some point where I was just like, oh my gosh, I love this. And I just like freaking read it as fast as I could.
I literally loved it. And I was pretty hooked right away, but I understand that I can understand why it maybe took a little bit to build up to it, just based on like how they developed the story.
Got it. You know what's my problem when I was reading this though? I went in thinking it was going to be a love hypothesis. But it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
And I think that's why I was like so disoriented at the beginning because I was like, what am I reading? Like, what am I reading? But then it eventually like developed. We got to know the characters more and the story and stuff. And so I was like, oh, okay, I got it. But then I really, really did love it.
Oh, gosh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're going to do kind of like we did with the love hypothesis. We are going to just go every couple chapters with our synopsis and just dive into our favorite parts.
Yes. So I did write my synopsis this time.
Yay!
And
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. They are short. So like.
Okay. That is okay.
So starting off with chapter 1, here is the synopsis. We meet the main character, January Andrews, and get a fast-track background on how she ended up at the beach house in Michigan at 29 years old, with her life falling apart. The chapter ends with meeting the next-door neighbor, in quotations, Everett. So it took me a while to get into the book, so I don't have like a lot of notes for these beginning chapters, but I just want to say that like chapter 1 was like a huge info dump, which I think is why I like wasn't vibing with it. I did really like January's backstory and like her belief that like she had like a happy ever after and all of this stuff, like everything ended happy in her life. I really like that just because I got to understand her more and also like how she ended up at the beach house with her life falling apart.
I totally agree that there was just a lot of information right away to sort through, which I guess left more room later to really develop the story without having to add in the background. So like in that way, I think it makes sense and I didn't mind, but I agree. It just takes a little more like brain energy to get into the story than I feel like is typical of like a contemporary romance. So.
Yes. I think again, that was my problem where I was like, I was thinking that it was going to be a quick contemporary romance that I could just like fly through. And I'm sitting here like contemplating like what a happy ever after is. Like I'm like, okay, just a second.
You're like, I don't understand anymore. Yeah. This is different. I will say I did like that there was a little more like meat to it than just contemporary romance.
Me too. Okay. Because I think I haven't read a book like that. And so I think the last book that I read that was kind of like, that had like the meat to it was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I think that's what her name is. Or Taylor Reid Jenkins. I don't know. That was the
Ashley Simone.
I was listening to that episode today and I was like, what the heck was I thinking?
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Anyways.
No, you're good. I really did love like the meat to beach read because it was just, it just like hit different.
It did.
I loved January's best friend. Her name is, how do you pronounce it?
Sadi?
Okay.
Maybe? Gosh, I forget. How do you Shoddy.
Okay. That's how I pronounce it.
It's like a melody. Yeah.
That's how I pronounced it in my head, but I was like, I'm not sure, but okay. I loved her, and I was kind of sad that we didn't get more of her because I feel like
I agree.
I don't know. I felt like she was important, but not important to like January's story in a way. But I just thought she brought like so much like comedic relief, and I was just like kind of like yearning for that.
Yeah, no, me too. I really loved her character. Well, actually, I went a little bit up and down with her character. I could have used more of it.
Yeah,
but I think that there wasn't necessarily a place for it in this story.
Yeah.
So I understand the purpose behind it. I think.
If it was like, oh, have more scenes with January and Shoddy or January and Gus, I would have been like January and Gus. For sure. Like 100%. Because again, that's like where the meat of everything was and like their character development and stuff. So I guess. But the second we were introduced to the neighbor on the deck next door, I was like immediately love interest. I was like, I was like, I could see you a mile away.
Literally. But I know it's predictable, but I love that. I love that it's predictable.
Me too. I loved their first conversation. I thought it was so funny, but it also showed like both of their personalities. And I don't know. I just thought it was like so funny, and I was like wanting more of their like dynamic, which like got me excited.
Yeah, no, me too.
What was your first impression of Everett, of Gus?
Gosh, now I'm trying to it was such a whirlwind when I read it. I'm trying to remember, like, because I know how I feel about him now. Yeah. What did I think of him at first? I thought maybe he was a little like mysterious, or like a little, I'm trying to remember what their first interaction was. It was at the party.
In college, or are you talking about the deck?
Oh, you mean in college?
No. Your first impression of him on the deck in chapter 1.
Oh, yeah, when she couldn't see his face or anything?
Yeah, and they were talking about, like, the sex shop, and he's like, oh, like, it's, like, downtown, and she's like, so I'll just follow you tomorrow.
No, I loved him right away.
Really?
Yes, I think so. I thought he was, like, kind of rude and, like, annoying, but, like, in a good way, because it's, like, obviously, I know that they're going to end up together by the end of the book. Okay. So I was like, oh, I like their banter. Their banter is so good.
It was really good, yeah. Okay, wow, that's interesting.
What did you think of him at first?
It took me a while to get on the Gus train.
Fair.
Not gonna lie. But my first impression was that he was a grump. But
oh yeah,
that's kind of a given.
A grump.
Yeah, that was kind of a given too, because Emily Henry used the adjective grump to like describe him. So I was like, immediately that was in my head. As the conversation went on though, I just like needed him to like chill out just a little bit. Like I thought there was like a stick up his ass, and I just like needed him to chill out. I was like,
oh, 100% he needed to chill out. But I was like, guess who's gonna get rid of that stick? That sounds so gross. But I think I just liked it because I was like, okay, I know I didn't feel a bad way about it because I knew the trajectory that it was gonna take, you know?
That's all I have for chapter 1, unless you have anything else.
No, I don't think I do. Okay. I will say some chapters I have a lot more than others, and definitely the second half of the book I have way more notes than the first.
Oh, me too. Me freaking too. Okay. All right, chapter 2. So this is the synopsis. We get more background on January's story and relive her father's funeral. We also get introduced to her father's mistress, Sonia, who gives her an envelope and keys at her father's funeral. We learn that January's agent, Anya, is expecting a new novel by the end of the summer. The chapter ends with January storming over to Everett's place and telling him to turn the music down. Again, just a lot of like background and setup for this chapter. So like nothing like much to like comment on. I will say that I was like very surprised that like Sonia gave her the letter and the keys, but eventually we find out why. But at that moment I was like, oh my gosh, she's like approaching January at her dad's funeral. Like it's already so intense. Like, but she's gonna go and approach. I was like, oh my gosh.
I was like, how about you back off?
Yes.
I was very annoyed by Sonia at first. And I think by the end of the book, I had a little more empathy, but I was like, get the heck away from her.
Yes.
Like you do not belong in this scenario.
I was like,
now.
This is not a good time. Why? No. At the funeral, really? Like that's the only time you could approach her. Really? Like it's not
give her some
good time.
Space.
Yeah. That was like a little jarring to me because I was like, wow, that just happened. Going back into like the present, I love that January goes over and is like, shut the F up. I'm trying to sleep. I like that we get like a contrast that she says, oh, like the old January would never do something, but the new January doesn't give a fuck. And she's like going to do whatever she wants, you know?
Literally.
Like she's going to tell them to like be quiet because I'm trying to sleep at 12:30 or whatever. And I love that because again, it's like she changed so much and we're jumping right into the story. So we're like, I don't know who the old January is. So I loved that contrast.
No, I love that too. And I also think it gives so much context to like how like everything that happened affected her.
Yes.
So which I think is so important to like even just as more stuff comes up later in the book. So I really think it's like smart how the author like set that up.
Yes, because it's hard to build up that background and get empathy for a main character when we're just starting with this book. And it's a standalone too. So it's like there's not a prequel to it where we can read January's Happily Ever After or whatever. So when Gus started to tease her about not seeing him on his own deck and... And he was like being such a smart ass because he was like, oh, do you also scream when cars drive past the highway or when you see people in the restroom window, like the restaurant window or whatever? I was like, what is happening? I did kind of love it in a sick and twisted way though, because I was like, you're funny. You're funny.
No, he's literally so extra, but like I loved it. Like I am here for the sarcasm. Like it's so aggravating. Like if I were January, I would be like, shut the heck up. I would, but I thought it was so funny to read. I was like, leave her alone.
Yes, because it's so ridiculous. Like if he said that to me, I would have been like, you're freaking dumb. No, I don't scream at people on like the highway, or I don't look at people in the restaurant window or whatever. Like it's just like, like you said, it's like aggravating.
Literally.
That is the end of my notes for chapter 2. Do you have anything else?
I do not. Okay. I do not. But I am ready to dive into chapter 3.
Okay.
Also, I just want to say I'm really proud of you for your synopsis. Good for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm improving, okay?
Yes, you are. You are.
Character development.
Literally. We love to see it. Here is my synopsis for chapter 3. In chapter 3, January begins to explore her new home for the summer. While she doesn't like being in a house full of reminders of her dad and his mistress, including a photo above the toilet she just puked in, January pushes herself to go out into the community after reminiscing on the relationship with her father, which she is seemingly conflicted by. January then meets Pete, local owner of the coffee shop and bookstore, who invited January to join the town's weekly book club. After January finds something to like in this new place, January clumsily finds out her new neighbor and old rival are the same person.
You dive in and I will say my comments later.
No, if you have something to say it.
I was surprised that the whole storyline of that they knew each other in college. I felt like that came out of left field, but I was like fine with it. I was like, oh, they have background, but it was just so interesting. But I was like vibing with it. I think it would have been more interesting if it was like they didn't know each other at all, you know?
See, I actually like that they knew each other in college, especially because of how that comes up later.
Yeah.
And I also just love stories where it's like someone comes back together after so much time. And I just think that's such a cool thing. I don't know. I really liked it because I also thought it added a lot to their story later on.
Yeah, no, definitely.
This is something that I felt kind of throughout the book was that I was very conflicted by the relationship with January and her dad, right? Because there's a lot of like quotes or like flashbacks to January and her dad, and he's always giving her this really, really good advice and like really has such a positive relationship with her. But then you hear about how him cheating affected her and his death and all of these things, and it just made me so frustrated. I was so conflicted by that because I was like, I want to love your dad, but I just am so mad at him.
Which makes sense why she has the idea of a happily ever after in her mind, because that's all she saw.
Literally.
So it's like, it makes sense why she is so confused right now, so lost of being like, okay, if I think about my childhood, it was actually fine. Like, my dad danced with my mom in the kitchen after she got her cancer diagnosis, and we were all okay. And now, after finding all of this shit out, and her life is just falling apart, of course I would be pissed. Of course I would be so lost, you know?
100%. And I will also say another thing that conflicted me about her dad's character was that I did not believe that like just because he was cheating didn't mean that he didn't care about January's mom.
Yep.
I think that was fully real. Like all of the romance stuff she saw, like dancing in the kitchen after her diagnosis, I thought that was real. But I was also like, if that's real, why are you doing this behind her back?
I have thoughts about that later in the second half of the book. But no, definitely. Like, I agree. But again, too, it's like confusing to January. I sympathize with her, right? Like, it's just, it sucks to be in a situation where it's like you saw one side of the story and then unfortunately another side was revealed and now you're confused.
Totally. One other thing I really like about just like the writing style is that it's very like relatable, and I feel like I'm reading it and like what would January's voice would be. And at one point I wrote down this quote. She said, sometimes I just missed liking people. Like it's like when you are burnt out, it's like everyone is so annoying to you. I don't know, you had a reaction where you're like, oh, that's sad. I thought it was really funny. But maybe it is sad.
Well, yeah, just because, like, her boyfriend of 5 years dumped her in the hot tub. She doesn't talk to her mom anymore. She, like, her best friend is always busy, right? We get that background of, like, oh, every time I text Shadi, it's like she's sleeping. But every time Shadi texts me, I'm sleeping or whatever. It just, like, sucks. And I think moving to the town and also with Gus is like the first time that she kind of starts feeling those things again, which again just makes me so happy because I'm like, you deserve it after all the shit you went through.
Literally, she does deserve it, which I love. The author wrote it in a way where like you are so ready to root for January right off the bat.
Yes, I really did like the writing style, and I liked it as first person too, because like I felt like I was literally in January's head.
Right? I know. I felt the same way. Yeah. But that's all I have for chapter 3. Do you have anything to like add?
No.
Okay. So here is the synopsis for chapter 4. Chapter 4 gives us the much needed background on Gus and January's relationship. We find out that January, sorry, I'm like giggling. I don't know why. Okay. We find out that January always thought of Gus as competition in college and that Gus only ever critiqued January's work. Why is that? We also find out that the two, sorry. We also find out that the two of them, oh my God, I love this book.
Are you
I don't know. Like I said, I have half a brain cell. Bear with me, folks. We also find out that the two of them never interacted much, which makes January think she was the only one who believed the rivalry to be true. Then we come back to the present where January and Gus, in quotes, meet, while Gus meets January, supposedly. It seems as though Gus might not remember January, but the banter and critique of each other's work is the same, or even more intense than it was before. Gus can't take his eyes off January, but she doesn't know why. The chapter ends with January leaving the bookstore, wondering what comes next. When I tell you I like this book, I really loved it. Like, it is up there for me.
Wow, that's so good, though. I'm so good that this redeemed me after fucking Ice Planet Barbarians.
I don't know if I will ever forgive you. Just kidding. Okay. A lot of my notes throughout the book are quotes just because I love the writing style. So in this chapter, one of the quotes from January's perspective, she said, to top things off, Everett was stupidly, infuriatingly attractive. And I was like, like, I just love that she's like, oh, he's so annoying, but oh my gosh, he's so cute. That's how it starts. That's always how it starts.
It's just a rabbit hole. You get deeper, deeper.
And then she continues to say, not to mention his crooked mouth, which should have been outlawed. Like, oh my gosh. And I love how that comes in, like, to play throughout the book. Like, she always talks about his smile and like his mouth in a certain way, which sounds weird, but reading it, I was like, ooh, boy.
I loved that she always said that like he leaned up against like the door frame as if he like couldn't support himself, and it always came back, and I was like, okay.
I love that. I love that too. Oh my gosh. And I remember during this chapter when the frat party was first mentioned, I was literally like, what happened at the frat party? Like,
Me
please
too.
just tell me what happened. I was like dying to know.
Me too, because again, we first found out that they were rivals, and I was like, oh, okay, I hate his guts, okay?
Yep.
Right? I'm on January's side. I hate him. And then she's like, oh, but then like I didn't want to think about what happened at the frat house. And I'm like, January, honey, what? What did you say? A frat house? Nothing good ever happens in those, okay?
Oh, no, it doesn't. No, it does not.
Yeah.
But again, such a testament to the writing, the fact that like she gets us so invested so quickly. And then I wrote this note, which is so interesting that I wrote this because I wrote my notes as I go, as I read.
Yeah.
So like they're very current to what I was feeling in the moment. Okay. I wrote, I love how he only criticized her, probably because he thinks she was the only one with talent and potential.
Oh my gosh, really? That's what you thought?
Yes.
Oh, I thought he was just being a dick.
Really?
Yeah.
I knew or I predicted right away that he always along had something for her.
I felt like he was a stuck-up, snobby, like, I'm a serious writer. I don't write romance novels because that's fake writing or whatever. Like, that was my image of Gus in my head. And I was like, no, writing is writing. January can write, okay? You sit down, get off your high horse.
Maybe it's like my mental health counselor brain. I was like, I know there's more. I know there's trauma, Gus. Yeah. Let's dig into it.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Selena, I'm telling you, I read this book as if I knew the ending, which I kind of think I did because I wrote this. Girl, ... He did not forget you. He's trying to act casual. Relax. I wrote that before we knew that he recognized her. So
yeah, it was kind of hard for me to believe that like Gus would forget her. Like, you know, like I feel like once you get into those college classes, they get smaller and smaller. And so like you would know the people in your class. And if he was picking on you specifically, like he would definitely remember you. So I was like a little like, I was like, really? I think Gus does remember you. Yeah.
Totally. I'm not even going to read these notes throughout the book, but just for the record, I have so many notes just being like, I love their banter. Oh my God. Because it's so good. And here's another quote from the end of the chapter. It says, I looked up to find Gus's dark eyes burning into me. The effect was intimidating. And I wrote, oh, he likes you. And that's, see, I did not view him as like a rude guy right away. I mean, I thought he was rude, but I was also like, you're just flirting. You're doing the classic guy thing where like you're flirting with her to be rude. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. I'm so surprised that like you did not. You were on the Gus train, like, chapter 1. You were ready to go.
I needed them to be together right away. I was like, all right, let's do this.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No, it definitely took me a long, long time for me to actually be like, okay, Gus, like, I'll give you a chance.
Fair enough.
Interesting. Okay. One thing, literally so random. As I was reading it at the beginning, I was like, I don't know if I can get on the name Gus because it reminds me of Gus from Cinderella. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that, you know? And also, like, Augustus reminds me of The Fault in Our Stars from John Green. And I was like, I don't know.
And now I'm thinking of, like, Augustus Gloop. Like, this is the most embarrassing, like, sad characters. Now I think I hate it. I didn't mind it before, but now I think I hate it.
I'm sorry.
I don't know why that killed me.
But no, like, I eventually got on the train of just, like, his name being Gus and Augustus. Yeah. So I was like, fine. But, like, literally at the beginning of the book, I was like, I can't get over this. Like, I can't get past it.
Fair enough. It is not, like, the sexiest.
Yes, name. I know. See, that's the thing. So.
But that... I'm sorry. I'm actually slap happy. I'm like so exhausted. So if I go on a laughing fit for no reason, just it is what it is.
No.
I don't have anything else for the chapter.
So we can jump into chapter 5. So this is the synopsis. The chapter starts out with January answering her agent's call, who tells her it's super important that January finishes this book that she's been writing for the past 13 months by the end of summer. January attends Pete's book club, and it turns out that Sonia is in attendance. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a lot of notes for this one because, again, it's just like a lot of inner monologue and inner turmoil for January. Yep. But I did really like that it was a lot, like at this point in the book, I really liked that it was very, very in-depth compared to the other contemporary romances I've read. Yes. Like her inner turmoil was like very tangible almost compared to like other books that I've read. And I think that's why, like you mentioned before, it has meat. Like this book is like has a lot of different context to it, whereas compared to like The Love Hypothesis, it's literally just their love story, you know?
100%. Which I honestly loved it. Like, I love that they added that in there. I felt myself, because of all of that, identifying with January so much. Or just, like, relating my own situations with how she was feeling, which I think is, like, a really important thing to get from books. Sorry, I'm so passionate about this book.
No, don't apologize. No, because I agree. Like, I think all of the setup, like, yeah, I'm saying, like, I don't have a lot of notes at the beginning, but, like, all of the setup pays off at the end because what happens hits harder. Like, her realization and her character development hits harder because, like, we're at the start with her. I just want to say, on the record, I called that Sonia would be there at the freaking book club. I knew she was going to be there because it's a small town. It's a small Midwestern town. So I was like, I have a feeling that she's going to be there. Like, everyone knows everyone. It's super cute, like, small town, like, this book club that's like, oh, it's the town's book club. No, it's just like 3 friends. Literally just 3 friends.
I didn't anticipate Sonia being there, but I did anticipate Gus being there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I did see. Yeah. Okay, well, that's all that I have for chapter 5, but chapter 6 picks up right after.
I will say again about the reading style, I like how she breaks up the chapters, and there's multiple chapters for one situation sometimes, but other times there's 500 situations in one chapter, and I'm like, whoa, are you going to split that up? It's very interesting.
Yeah, I actually was not vibing with the way that she split it up.
Fair enough.
Sometimes I thought you should just keep it in one chapter.
Sure,
that
makes sense.
Like there was, I agree, there was some scenes, like some like breaks within the chapter where it was clear that she should have just made a new chapter.
And there's one in particular where it makes no sense.
I know exactly what you're fucking talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay. Moving on to chapter 6 that picks up right after chapter 5. So here's the synopsis. After seeing Sonia, January seeks solitude in the bathroom with her bottle of wine in tow. January eventually comes out of the bathroom with Sonia nowhere in sight, but the surprise doesn't end there. Gus is in attendance at the book club as well, and they sit together as they listen to Pete and Maggie talk about books. By the end of the night, January and Gus realize that Pete and Maggie's book club specializes in spy novels, and they never intended to talk about their own novels that night.
Okay, sorry. I didn't even think you were reading a synopsis. I was just ready to jump in. So you can go first.
Oh, no, that's okay. You go and say what you were going to say.
The last sentence of that, I wrote about this later, but Pete knew right away that something was going on. I think Pete right away wanted something to happen and was very subtly manipulating the situation. And I was like, all right, I see you.
You know what? We eventually find out more about Pete, but I think it was just like Pete trying to help Gus, like after what happens, which we'll talk about. But I think it's just like her like really caring, loving way of being like, I think Gus would really like her. And I'm like,
totally.
Yeah. I know. I love that January was like, I'm just gonna drink this wine straight out of the bottle from my purse. She was like, I don't care. Like, I'm just gonna do it. And I was like,
if no one else is gonna drink it, I will.
Exactly. I was like, that's such a mood, girl. Like, if I was in this situation, like after seeing my dad's mistress and then seeing my freaking arch nemesis from college, I'd do the same. I was like sweating for her as I was like reading this novel, because I was like, I would have just gone home, like, to be honest, but 100%. She stuck it out. I say when Gus walked in, I was like, of course, what could possibly go wrong? That was the cherry on the top. I was like, oh my gosh. But at the same time, I was like, yay, he's here. Like,
right? I live for the chaos. I'm like, that's what I need.
Same. Also, okay, I just want to say, I think at this point, I didn't know what to imagine Gus as. Like, I didn't have a solid, tangible thing of what he looks like until this chapter. And it's on page 54 that January describes him. And she says, he showed up looking like a college junior's backup pot dealer. And I was like, what? but also I was like, he's so normal. Like, I feel like he's such a normal guy that you find in like a Midwestern town. And it was just super weird for me because, like, I think in novels I'm always like the main love interest is like super hot and he's super smart and he's like very like muscular and like all of this stuff, you know? And I just felt like, wow, Gus is like really normal. And I love that because it felt so much more tangible to me. You know?
Totally. I was going to say the same thing. Yeah. It was tangible. It was so realistic.
Yes.
And also, I think in real life dating, sometimes you don't necessarily understand why you're attracted to someone, but you just are. And you just are. Jack Harlow? Yeah. Like, you know?
I love that. So I just like, it was the first time where I was like, oh, Gus is like normal. He's just like this like cute guy in this like Midwestern town. That's it for chapter 6 for me. I didn't have a lot. Cool. Did you have anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. To be honest, I feel like this versus the love hypothesis, because of the way the chapters were broken up, I don't have as much to like talk about, but that doesn't mean I don't love it as much. I just don't have, because I think so much of what it is the internal dialogue.
Yes.
And that's harder to talk about, I think. You know? Okay, so chapter 7. Chapter 7 begins with January being resistant to taking a car ride home from Gus. It takes a lot of flirty banter and pushing, but January finally decides to get into the car. Next, Gus takes January to get donuts and coffee, where more banter ensues. It seems as though they can't communicate without it. January notices the flirting and the subtle touches and can barely contain herself, but before she can think about it too much, she forced herself to continue the conversation. Although it seems like this is a good thing, the chapter ends with January letting Gus know just how she feels about being a female writer and that she does not appreciate the unjust criticism. Gus seems taken aback by this, and the chapter ends with January wanting to go home. So much to say, I feel like.
Yeah.
Okay. This goes back to what I said about the last line of your synopsis. Pete asked January, she was like, how are you getting home, dear? Like, you know exactly how she's gonna get home.
Yeah.
You little old woman, you know what you're doing.
Like, okay, but also, though, I would have pulled a January, because over my dead body would have I ever have gotten into my arch nemesis car. I would have done the same thing. I would have like pretended that like the Uber was coming. But again, it's a small town. They don't 100%. Have Ubers.
Well, that is a thing for January throughout the book, where her instinct is to just run from the situation rather than dealing with it. Yeah. She's just going to avoid until she dies, which is so relatable.
Yes,
so
it is. Relatable. It really is.
Okay. then I'm sorry, their flirty banter, I really can't handle it. Like when he brought up the Jello wrestling, and I was like, January, just get in his car, just please. Like, I need the chaos. Yeah. One thing January said, she goes, maybe I'm trembling with the anticipation of an exhilarating walk home.
Yes.
And then she starts walking, and then he goes wrong way.
I know.
Like, it's so perfect.
Yeah.
It's so perfect. And then, okay, on page 59, she says, you're not talking about sex stuff, are you? And then he responds to her by using her like full name. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then he says, did you want me to seduce you? And I was like, like, I'm sorry. I like, literally like...
He's just doing it to like poke fun. Like he's like poking the bear. And I can definitely tell.
He wants to make her uncomfortable.
Exactly. And it just makes for an interesting dynamic, and I think that was why it was so much fun to read.
Totally. I'm sorry. Oh my God, I'm losing it. Okay, so on page 64, this is just a very small detail, but I love how she describes being intoxicated by his smile. Again, she focuses on these little details that makes him so attractive to her, and I just love that because I feel like, again, very realistic to like what you find in like someone that you end up liking. You find the little things, you know?
Theoni, it's the female gaze. It's literally just a female gaze.
Literally.
Like, that's like what we look for, you know?
Totally. The chapter ends basically, I forget exactly what Gus says, but basically he says something about their different writing styles and about like female writers, and January goes off on him. And I was like, good for you. Like, don't be afraid. Don't get like pushed down by that. Let him have it. Like, let him know how you feel. I loved that.
Well, you know what pissed me off too? Again, at this point, I still was not on the Gus train, even though that like little exchange for like the car ride was super cute. I still wasn't on the Gus train, and this just like proved my point more, because it's like January is successful. She's sold like 3 or 4 books. Like, she knows how to write. She's like getting commission from all of this stuff too. So it's like, why are you telling her that she can't write, or like her writing style is like not that great, or what, you know? Like, I'm just like, ugh, whatever.
Well, I think that happens a couple times throughout the book where like, which I think I understand more once we get to know Gus more, but it's like he doesn't know when to stop the banter. It's like good for a while, but then I'm like, why did you have to make that last comment?
Yes. Like, it was good. And then it was a little too far. And I was like,
exactly.
Take a step back.
Exactly.
I will say in this chapter, I did like that he like stayed and waited for her Uber to come.
Yeah.
Because he knew. Because he's like, January, you're bullshitting. I know there's no freaking Uber coming. So I'm going to sit here and just prove my point. You know, literally. Like, I was just like, but that's so sweet though, too. Because like a part of me did like that Gus stayed and like made sure that she got home.
Oh, I loved that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move on to chapter 8.
Okay.
Chapter 8 focused on a long conversation between January and Gus in the car. While their conversations have been straight sarcasm, this is the chapter where it takes a slightly more serious turn. Gus talks openly about how he is realistic, and more importantly, that he remembers January. Not only that, but he remembers what she was like and is unafraid to show his confusion about how different she has become. Throughout this conversation, January can't think straight. She's offended but excited. She feels understood but is freaked out. It's all a little too much for January, especially when Gus challenges her to write his genre of a book, and he'll do the same. The hesitation is real, but the possibility of finally beating her rival causes January to agree. The chapter ends with Gus making sure January will follow one simple rule during this challenge. Do you have any thoughts right away?
I was just going to say, I was surprised that there was this like bargain thing. I didn't see the book going that way.
No, I didn't either, but I loved it.
Me too. I loved it too, because it was a good excuse for them to like keep on keeping.
And it wasn't, what I love though, it wasn't just something like him betting that like she can't do it. It was both ways. Yeah. So they both had something to lose and gain, which I was like, yes, I love competition. My competitive side was like, yes, let's do this.
Yeah.
I like that he allowed himself to be more serious about who he is as a person, in the sense that like he's realistic and stuff. Like he always went there first, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, you know why? Because he was also the last person to open up. It was like he would only go so far.
Sure. That makes sense. You're skeptical. Okay. I wrote a note that said, in quotes, this is what January said to him. Are you honestly saying you don't believe in love? And then I wrote, you sure will by the end of the book. Because duh, like, you know. On page 70, there's this little moment where I was like, he noticed her calling him Gus, and he was so smiley about it. Like, he's like, he started smiling, and she was like, what? And he was like, that's the second time you've called me Gus tonight. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was freaking out.
I love that he noticed that because it like meant so much to him. And I was like, oh my God.
I literally love it. We get the little part about where he remembers January, which is all great. When she's describing the frat party a little bit, she says, Gus had been all hot breath and sparking touches. And I said, yep, okay, I'm in for this ride. And then it continues and said, it had been palpable how much we wanted each other that night. And I was like, and then she says, it felt like a personal attack the way he kept looking at me. And I was like, oh my God. Like, again, the way the author writes these things drove me nuts. It was so good.
Yeah. I like wanted more. I was like, I need to know what happened at this frat party, please. Because it seems really hot and steamy and I need it.
Literally, I'm like, let's jump to the spicy parts. So, right? Thank you. In this car ride, you get right away how well they read each other right off the bat. They don't know who each other are now, but they still can read each other so well. Like when he said, it's not who you are. And she said, but as you pointed out, I'm different now. And I just felt like that alone. I'm just like, wow. You really know each other.
They were like so in tune with each other. It like worked perfectly, you know? I loved it though because it's like they haven't like talked to each other in like years yet. The second that they're together, it's like they like know.
Exactly.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I know, right? It's just like, it's one of those things where the connection is just there and you can't.
That's like soulmate shit right there. And that's when I knew they were going to be together. Well, I also knew they were going to be together at chapter 1.
Okay, on page 79, you know how I was saying Gus takes it a little too far sometime?
Yeah.
January does too. They both don't know when to stop because there was this part where he was talking about the plan and then January kept making jokes about it and Gus was described to be like frowning and he was like, okay, let's just forget about the plan. And I think that just shows that like he has a serious side and he's like, I need to be taken seriously sometimes. I love the banter, but I feel like that's what they both need. But they learned to, you know, find balance later. Yeah. So that's what matters. And then, of course, at the end of the chapter, he had to say, promise not to fall in love with me. And I died. And you know what that reminded me of? A Walk to Remember. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to be sick. He's going to be sick and he's going to die. I really thought that.
Doesn't January say that like he took it from A Walk to Remember? Like she literally calls that out.
Oh yeah, she does.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's funny because he doesn't do romance, yet he knows that reference. I will say, though, when he said that, I was like, oh, that's a little cringe for me. I couldn't, like, get on with it, you know? Like, I couldn't get on board with, like, the, oh, don't fall in love with me thing.
It was too cringy, but I was on board.
You're like, fuck it.
Yeah, literally. If someone said that to me, I'd be like, thank you for saying that. Now I am going to fall in love with you. Screw you.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
On to chapter 9. So here's a synopsis. Chapter 9 opens with updates from Shadi and her man. January gets straight to business as she begins to think about her novel and her plans for the Saturday's romantic comedy scenarios she would take Gus on. As January begins cleaning the second bedroom in the house, we get many flashbacks on January's fallout with her mom and ex-boyfriend. By the end of the chapter, we see January making progress on her new book, which is based off events that like happened in her life. This chapter just like reinforced my love for Shadi. Like she is so funny. She's so hilarious. Funny. Like so over the top, but like such like a best friend trope that I just like really, really loved. And again, I just wish we got I wish we got more of her. This was like a heavy flashback chapter, but I appreciated the background because I felt like I got to know January a lot better. It wasn't the fun parts of the book, but I definitely thought they were interesting, and then it made me feel a lot more connected to her. So like, again, just not a lot of thoughts, but like, I felt I felt a lot more connected to her after it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that that's very much sprinkled throughout the book too. And so as much as I was like, again, like I was saying earlier, it's kind of tough to like talk about and discuss.
Yeah.
But I will say, again, it really gets us to know the character, like you said.
I think it was this chapter too that I really felt bad for January because she had to grow up super quick in a like really unfortunate circumstance. I did like seeing the contrast though of like her kind of ditching that mindset of like, I have to be mature, I have to be like proper or whatever, when she confronted her mom about the affair at the funeral. And she was just, I don't have the paragraphs in front of me, but she was basically just saying like, I just wanted to be a kid and I wanted to yell and scream and do all of this stuff. And it was just so interesting to see kind of like January revert back, but also though she like was robbed of her childhood because she had to deal with so much stuff with her mom's diagnosis.
I think it's really interesting the thing you said about her like reverting back to that. I think that's so interesting. I say this a lot, my mental health counselor brain, but it might just be my brain. I don't know. But I love seeing how like things change people and like how they develop, because especially when you go through those things, if you look at like what age it happens at, I just think that there's certain ages that of course it's going to affect you differently, especially when you're younger. You're developing so much that those things really do have an effect on you. And so I don't know, I think I agree. And I like that as the book goes on, she starts getting pieces of her old self back, which I think is just really beautiful.
I know, I love it too. Okay. The last thing that I said is that I really, really liked a quote on page 89. It said, "My mom's first diagnosis taught me that love was an escape rope, but it was her second diagnosis that taught me love could be a life vest when you were drowning." And I was like, this is so gorgeous, but also like heartbreaking. I love that through her writing, like Emily Henry could like bring these like themes to life. And I think that's what made me fall in love so much with the story. I was just, oh my God, I was just in awe.
That's why I think in my notes I have so many quotes, because the way she writes, it's so beautiful. It's like poetic.
Yeah.
But it's not cheesy.
Yes.
In a way that I'm just like, you're trying so hard to sound like a romance novel. Like, it's just really genuinely beautiful.
Yes. But it's also like so relatable in a sense where it's like I could see January in me, you know, or like I could sympathize with January too. And it was just,
Totally.
Well, that is all that I have for chapter 9. Do you have anything?
I do not.
Moving on to chapter 10. So here is the synopsis. Chapter 10 opens with January writing her book with struggles and also questioning her mother and father's relationship and when her father's affair could have possibly happened. It's the first time that January and Gus trade notes from their windows. Then January and Gus go to interview a woman whose twin sister was in a cult for Gus's next novel. The chapter ends with Gus admitting that he has read January's book. Books, plural. Okay, this was the first chapter where like I started getting giddy, you know, like being like, oh my gosh, like,
because it really, really kicked up a notch. And one thing I will appreciate, I don't know if it's because we're in the same generation as Emily Henry. I don't know how old she is or anything, but her references are so spot on to what I like. The note writing when she referenced,
Taylor
like she
Swift.
referenced A Walk to Remember, then Taylor Swift, like you just said. I was just like, holy crap, like, yes, because who didn't watch the You Belong With Me music video and was like, I want that.
Yes, exactly. I know. I loved her references. My first note is literally, love the notes, all in caps. Because I thought it's like such a classic, like, romantic comedy thing to do.
Totally. This needs to be a movie.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
It really does. It really does.
Like, I feel like it's one that would translate so well, too.
Yes, I agree. I loved their conversation in the car, like to and from where they like went to go interview Grace. Again, they're like chemistry and banter is just so good. And Gus is such a smart ass. Like, I just like was eating it up. I said on page 101 when January asked if he brought her here to murder her, and he says, quote, "Please, we drove 3 hours. I've got a perfectly good murder spot back in North Bear Shores." Like, I cackled. I cackled because I was like, what? Like,
who thinks of that?
I know. But it's so funny though. Like, oh my God.
And I am also so personally attracted to people who make me laugh or like say things very off the cuff or sarcastic.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's why I loved Gus right away, because he's so much like that. Like you said.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so funny.
It was slow for me, but it was like these little tiny moments where I was like, okay, Gus, I see you. You're kind of funny. And just like it kept adding up until I was like, okay, I'm in love with you. Fine.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the gas station scene. Because I was screaming throughout the entire thing.
I lost my mind. Because I wasn't expecting it.
Me neither. It's a gas station. They're at a gas station, Theoni. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
who would have known standing that close by a car
like
would be that spicy?
Yes, like the tension, the little like touches. It was like everything I wanted and needed, but like just enough to like keep me wanting more. Like, oh my God, like the balance was just like perfect. This is like an ongoing thing, but this is the first time that I like kind of noted it, that it was not a problem, but something I definitely noticed is that like it was really hard for like Gus to open up. At first I was like annoyed by it, but like as the book went on, I like began to understand why. But I also kind of like that he was mysterious in a way as well. So it was just an interesting balance, because at some parts I was like, can you just tell me more? Like, please, I just want to know more. And other parts I was like, oh, okay, like you can stay mysterious. Like I'm totally fine with that. But it was just kind of a weird back and forth with me throughout the book.
Sure.
It was her who didn't move, right? Or was it him that didn't move from the car? And she was like, okay, well, I'll tell you one thing if you move, right?
I thought it was her that didn't move.
I think so.
I don't remember the exact dynamic of how it happened.
Yes.
But I remember someone wasn't moving.
Yeah. So I think it was January who wasn't moving. I don't remember why she wasn't moving, but the basic concept you need to understand is that she was not moving. So Gus was like, I'll tell you one thing and then you got to move. Oh my God. I screamed when he was like, yeah, I've read your books. And then
he whispered it.
I know. And then he grabbed her by the waist and spun her from the car. And I was like,
I thought they were going to kiss.
Oh my God, really?
Yes. I was like, because I thought it was going to be one of those moments where he like grabs her waist and spins her and like pushes her against the car. Like I thought that's what it was going to be. And I was like, whoa, that was fast. But then not having that made it so much better.
It was so good. Like the tension and the teasing. Like after I read that, like he spun her away from the car or whatever, I was like, oh my God, that was so attractive. Like, I just need a minute, please. Like, he's read her books? Like, sir, you
don't hate romance.
Exactly. I don't know. I was just like, okay, like, I guess I could see, like, me liking Gus, but I was still a little hesitant. That's all that I have for chapter 10.
So now we will go into chapter 11. Chapter 11 begins with some background for January. We get insight into how she believes characters to fall in love and why she loves writing. She likes the spontaneity but intention and urgency of it. Throughout this, January is trying to figure out where to take Gus for their first rom-com outing. Not only do we get more information about January's mom and dad's love story and lives, but we also get a surprise visit from Gus wanting to know where they were going. Eventually, January decides to take Gus to the carnival, and simply put, Gus was not amused at first. During this outing, we get more glimpses of what Gus used to notice about January, including her glistening golden boy ex-boyfriend. Throughout the chapter, we get more banter and directly see how their imaginations run wild, but see the world completely differently. Finally, Gus agrees to go on one specific carnival ride.
I loved the carnival date.
I did too.
I really loved it. Like,
I did too.
Again, this was like, I could feel myself starting to like really vibe with the book and be like, oh my God, this is so cute.
Right? Oh my gosh. And something I just loved about the chapter was that it wasn't like a normal carnival date. It was so specific to them because like when they would point out a person and have completely different stories about them. Yeah. But by the end of it, they were seeing someone and making up the story together, which I thought was so cute. I can't.
I know, really.
There's something she said on page 109. I didn't write it down, but what I did write about it was that I love the idea that love can happen anywhere, like you said, and that she likes the mistakes that turn into something. And I love that too, because it's so true. You can never anticipate or expect to meet someone a certain place or like expect a certain thing. It doesn't happen the way you think it will, you know?
Which speaks a lot to like their their progression, but yeah.
One quote from the chapter that was something going on in January's head. She said, "The message was ironic. The butterflies in my chest were not." Why is that so good? Like, how do you think to write that?
I actually really did like that line. It was so good.
I did cringe when she responded to one of his notes with "new phone, who dis." I was like,
it was another reference, right? It made sense because I was like, okay, you reference Taylor Swift, you reference Walk to Remember, blah, blah. But I was just like, maybe not that reference though.
Right. I wrote, "How can her dad be so wise and so stupid?" And this is what he said. "When you're going through something hard, it's nice to know you're not even close to the only one." Like, it's just, he's such a lovable character except for him being an idiot.
I know. And Gus says something of the same way too, which we'll get to later, but Gus kind of has a not a similar mindset, but he has almost kind of the same lens that like her dad had.
Another quote, "The flexed veins and muscles in his lean chest cast shadows along his skin." Again, the author writes the female gaze so well.
So good. Literally so freaking good. Like,
I was like, okay, I see you. As we go in the chapter, we find out that Gus knew about January's ex-boyfriend. He was so jealous. This is when I knew he was jealous of him, because he kept saying things like, "But you were in love with him," or blah, blah, blah. I was like, you are jealous. You are so freaking jealous. And then another line he said that made me think that was, "That's still more beer cans than your ex-boyfriend." I was like,
oh, that's interesting. Because
do you not think he was?
No, I didn't think he was jealous. I thought he was just like poking fun at like January's happily ever after that never happened.
Oh, see, I read that totally differently.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I mean, I could see it now. Now, reading the book in full and like seeing it as a full image, I can see how like that would be like Gus's way of like being jealous.
Yeah. Okay, here's a quote from Gus that effectively made me lose my mind. I thought that I was going to have to close the book, and it's not even what you think it's going to be, but it just affected me. Okay. He said, "You're as small as you are ridiculous." I don't know why I love that line, because it's just so sarcastic but so cute, and like, oh, I don't know why I like that, Selena. I just really did.
Again, their dynamic. It's just like, oh my God. So it was so addicting. Like, I loved them as a couple.
I think that's all I have for chapter 11, actually. Do you have anything else that you want to like bring up?
Oh, I did. I love the whole puke thing with Gus.
My gosh. I thought that was so funny. And he held her hair.
I know. And he was like, and even though he hated puking, he like still held her hair, and I was like, that's true love right there. I
know. And the way she described him like rubbing her back, I was like, oh my God.
I was like, that's not a casual friend, okay? That is not a casual friend who does that.
No, it is not a casual friend. Chapter 12. Chapter 12 is a long one that starts off with the end of carnival night. There is a shift in the way that rather than telling separate stories, they start making one together. Then Gus shows his sweet side by holding January's hair while she vomits. Oh, that's what we are talking about. This is in chapter 12, not 11.
Are they still
at the
carnival?
Run together. No, it is still at the carnival. But that's what I mean, where she split up the chapter.
I don't like that. I don't like that, okay?
I don't like it. Have you seen that Chris Evans thing?
I have.
Where he goes, I don't like it. So funny.
Oh my gosh, I have.
All right, anyways. Again, we find January and Gus reminiscing about college, but further get more information about Gus's history with his family and January's parents' love story. It quickly becomes clear that not only do they both want to share these things with each other, but they can't help that they do. We also find out that January has truly become inspired to write. As inspiration hits, Gus takes January on their next adventure, except that adventure doesn't show up. Instead, Gus and January end up at Olive Garden alone and finding themselves more comfortable than they thought. And again, they can't help themselves, but in a different way this time.
I shit my pants when I read that Olive Garden scene.
I did too. And it's the most like basic restaurant. Like it's nothing fancy, but I was like, holy shit.
It wasn't even like that steamy either. It was just like little stuff that I was just like, oh my gosh. I was just like,
and the way they just held hands under the table but didn't let go. I was like, oh.
I know.
But then I think she wrote something about how she was like, but we weren't going to mention that we weren't letting go. And I was like, oh my gosh. I don't know. Oh my God. I cannot. Okay, back to the puke scene. There's one quote that he said, "If you didn't have such nice hair, I wouldn't have bothered." And I was like, oh, that's just nice.
Yeah. He's sweet.
I'm sorry. Okay.
He's like sweet.
Yeah.
Like I can definitely see how like he can be a gentleman even though we're getting like the smart ass side of him, you know?
I think Gus is my type. Truly, because he's not like the cutest person you've ever seen, but he's so cute. He's really sweet, but also a little rude and sarcastic. I love Gus. Okay. When January starts talking about her parents and we get her inner dialogue about how she's like hesitant to share, but she just can't help herself but share.
Yeah.
And I feel like they both feel that way about each other. And I think that really speaks to how sometimes when you like go on a date with someone or something like that, sometimes the conversation just flows. Sometimes it doesn't. And I feel like you know right away if it's gonna get to that point or not.
I think for me though, when I read that, I was like, in a way, January thought that Gus was safe and vice versa. And I really, really liked that because it's like they could confide in like one another and like be really real with each other. And I was like, that's so sweet because at this point in both of their lives, they like really need someone.
And then I think that leads to Gus being able to open up to her. And this is a quote he said, "But the worst thing, the hardest thing had turned out to be being angry with someone you couldn't fight it out with." That's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like, this is when I really, really, really had sympathy for Gus.
That line hits different now that I know what happens at the end.
I know.
Yeah.
God. And then he talks about her books and he says, "I thought it was the nicest dedication I'd ever read."
And he memorized it. He knows. He tells her. And I was like, dude,
you are in deep.
Exactly.
You are in deep, my friend. Holy shit.
Oh my God, I know.
I love that they both took their individual traumas and turned it into something so differently. But I think that's what makes both of their writing special, you know? And I think it's really cool that we got it. This is a quote. Sorry, I have so many quotes, but they're just the writing. "The possibility hung in the air. At any time, one of us could have invited the other over, and either of us would have accepted, but neither of us asked, so things went on as they'd been." And I think that just goes to show that, like, eventually someone needs to say something. Someone needs to make a move. Like, you just have to do that, you know?
Which comes back at the end of the book. But it's a huge theme, though, and it was, to be honest, it was really frustrating to me, because I was just like, someone say something. Just say it. Like literally just communicate. Like I just need you to like talk to each other and like, but
literally.
I understand why Emily Henry did that because at the end it did pay off, but I was just like, oh my God, seriously, you guys are not going to say anything again? Like I was just,
I know. Like, come on. You already did whatever you did at the gas station. Let's get going. Yeah. But that is all I had about the chapter. Yeah, that's because we already talked about the Olive Garden thing.
Yes. Oh God, the Olive Garden thing though was just so good. I love it's just the little tiny touches that were killing me.
Yeah. Sometimes those are even hotter than like when you get to the real meat of it. I.e. Bridgerton season 2.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. Moving on to chapter 13.
I bought this book. I bought this book on my iPad.
Yeah.
So I don't have the physical copy. I thought something was wrong. I thought something was missing. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a glitch and I don't have the whole chapter.
I turned the page and I cackled because I saw it. I saw it on my book and I just cackled without reading the one sentence that is on the page for this chapter. I already cackled because I knew. I was like, something happened, which...
Right.
My synopsis is, this chapter is only one sentence, and it reads, I dreamed of Gus Everett and woke up needing a shower.
But okay, this is one of the times when her unique way of splitting up the chapters paid off. Yes. I thought that was so funny.
Yes. No, you're right.
I would have loved to hear what that dream was about.
I know, me too. I just wanted a little more.
But I feel like that was really good comic relief.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well... Moving on to chapter 14.
Alrighty.
Okay. This is the synopsis. January and Gus face the aftermath of what happened the night before and communicate by exchanging window notes. January reflects on the house and her father's affair once again, and she visits the beach for the first time and cries, overwhelmed with where her life is at the moment. January takes Gus to a Meg Ryan night at a drive-in theater, and things get heated in the car. January runs into Sonia at a grocery store, and Gus has mysteriously disappeared from his house. This one was a chapter I just screamed. I just screamed.
You know what I was thinking? One of the people I was thinking that could be Gus, but actually I hate this casting now, and it's really ironic because I was like, you know who could be Gus? Jack Quaid. And you know whose son he is? Meg Ryan. You know who hates Meg Ryan?
Gus. No, actually, I don't hate that.
Really?
Because I feel like he's so normal and he can be so goofy, but in a cute, small town way.
Yes, totally.
Okay, wait, I actually
we'll get into that later. But maybe I'm onto something. Yeah. I'll be January. Anyways,
you'll be January. I'll be Olive.
I literally cast myself and Henry Cavill in every single thing.
Yes, you do. Okay, to start off, I thought it was interesting that Gus apologized that he got weird last night via window notes, because I was like, I don't think it was weird. I don't think January thought it was weird either. She didn't say that she didn't not like it. Sure. But coming from Gus's perspective, I guess I could understand why he wouldn't want her to get mixed signals from it, if that makes sense. So I understand why he was like, oh, sorry, I got weird last night. But I didn't think it was weird. I thought it was really cute.
See, I saw him saying that as more of an insecurity thing, an uncertainty thing. He felt himself developing these feelings, but he obviously, which we learned later in the book, has so much more going on than we even know about at this point. Yeah. And I was like, it's almost like me. I do this sometimes. I apologize out of habit or that I'm afraid I'm weirded someone out, even if it's not weird. Oh, yeah. And I've learned sometimes when you apologize for that, that's what makes it weird. But I understood where he was coming from.
Got it. No, that definitely makes sense. Her response killed me. She said, quote, "Don't be ridiculous, Gus. You were always weird." I was like, this is so cute.
It. I know.
I was like, January, you're funny too. You're funny. And then there's so much inner turmoil for January. Again, about her father's affair, just because she's staying in the beach house. And there's just a lot of reminders of him and his mistress, which I know you mentioned, the picture, in the bathroom. And it's reinforced again in her mind that happy endings don't exist and they're fake and they just can never succeed. Yep. And I felt so bad when she cried on the beach. I could feel her loneliness and her loss of direction, and I just wanted to give her a hug. Her sadness felt so tangible, or I was
palpable.
Oh my God, I was I just want to give you a hug. And again, too, I think it credits all the buildup and the background that Emily Henry was doing in those early chapters.
Gosh, I felt so heartbroken for her.
I know. Speaking of hugs, Gus is there on the beach with her, and I literally screamed when she turned around and he was standing there.
Same. I flipped out.
Me too. When he sees that she's been crying, he just holds her. And I'm like, this is so sweet. Just so cute.
I love those moments when sometimes you don't need to say anything. You just need to be held.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so beautiful. And the way the hug was described was so sweet and endearing, but also like hot. Like, I don't know. It was like, it was so well described.
Okay, let's talk about this frickin' drive-in movie theater scene. This was like everything I ever wanted. Like, ever.
I know. Wow, so much happens in this chapter. Holy crap.
Like, the second that she mentioned that they kept touching each other in like the back trunk or whatever, and they would shift in the car, but then their knees would like always still be touching, or something would always still be touching, I knew that something was going to happen, because I was like, it's inevitable. You guys are so close. It's dark. It's a movie theater. Like, you guys keep shifting at the same time. Like, I just knew it.
I knew something was going to happen, but I didn't know. Ooh, the Martha.
Yeah. Also, I love that January refers to herself as a bunny. Because she gets so excited about Gus, and I think it's so hilarious and cute. And I think in the chapter she's like, don't be a dumb bunny, don't be a dumb bunny. And I'm like, but you can be a dumb bunny though.
Yeah, be a little dumb.
Yeah, because he's cute, you know.
Yeah. It got spicy.
Yeah.
It got so spicy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, are they gonna have sex? But nope.
Yeah. No, I was surprised it got so spicy. Like, I was like, oh my god, this is happening. But you know what was happening in my head as I was reading this? I couldn't focus because I was like,
They're in public.
Yeah, you're in public, the back trunk is open, everyone can see them. Like, it's not that dark. I've been to a drive-in theater before. It's not that private.
No.
So literally, as I was reading the scene, all I could think about was like, someone's watching. Someone's gonna come. So like, my anxiety could not rest. And then, of course, an attendant comes up, and I'm like, I freaking knew it.
Which I thought was so funny.
Yeah.
Like, I visualized it so clearly in my head.
I know. I did laugh when Gus slammed the trunk close on the attendant and like kind of returned to her. I was just like, Gus, you're freaking ridiculous.
He wanted her so bad.
I know he did.
Holy crap.
I know.
But I love it. It's like there's so much self-restraint, but then when they finally let it go, it's gone.
Yeah.
Like,
which we'll get to.
yes.
Okay, so, oh god, I hated how this chapter ended. How, like, it ended, because he left for a week, and it really pissed me off, because I was like...
he didn't say anything.
Yes, and I felt, at this point, he was hot and cold, because he did a similar thing, too, or maybe it was, like, they just, like, didn't acknowledge what happened at Olive Garden, or they didn't acknowledge the gas station or whatever, so I felt like this was the same thing, except even freaking worse, because they did make out, and I was just, like... so annoyed,
because in real life there's no excuse for that.
No.
If you need to go somewhere, you don't have to say why all the time if you don't feel comfortable, but you can say that you're leaving for some reason.
Don't ghost
like,
me
I
for
don't
a
care how
week.
difficult it is. Literally.
I was just so annoyed, and I was like, I like the mysterious parts of him, but this was unnecessary to leave January hanging like that, because then you know what happened? She started doubting herself. She began like turning it on herself and being like, you know, like, maybe it was me, or like, maybe like Gus doesn't like this, and like, I moved too fast and blah, blah, blah. And I hate that, because January did nothing wrong, you know?
Nothing.
And
literally nothing.
God, I was just so freaking angry. It was so sad for me too, though, because like, she kept looking for his car, and it wasn't there outside his house, and I was like...
Because they've gotten into this unspoken routine.
Yeah. I was just so sad.
Really...
Oh my God.
I know. Gosh.
Anyways, that's how chapter 14 ends, and that is how part 1 of this episode is going to end as well.
If I had that much of a reaction to the first half of the book, the second half, nuts.
It like literally goes from 0 to 100 so quick.
So quick, but also not in the way you would expect.
Yes.
Which I love.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. I cannot wait to discuss the second part of the book, and we will see you next time.
Bye.